Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Be Unstoppable Summit, proudly brought to you by Freshworks. Freshworks, for those who don't know us, trusted by over 50,000 customers around the world. We make it fast and easy for businesses to delight customers and employees, and hopefully to delight you today with this session today, and that's going to be what we're going to be talking about. Technology lies at the heart of it. The Be Unstoppable Summit is designed to provide our viewers with those insights from the industry and actionable insights from and strategies to shape the business to become unstoppable. We have a lineup of amazing speakers that you probably heard or are going to hear. So yeah, hopefully you're enjoying these sessions. I am Angelica Reyes. I'm the head of marketing for Freshworks in Europe. And I have here with me David Wright, who is Chief Value and Innovation Officer at Service Desk Institute, known as SDI. Great and strong partner for Freshworks, and needs no introduction, I think, in the industry today. Really happy to have you here with us.
Well, thanks for inviting SDI. It's always great to be part of these things. So it's really great to be part of the Be Unstoppable Summit. Thank you.
Good. So yeah, let's kick it off. So I think that we all agree that the 24 past months have been challenging. Hopefully we are strongly seeing finally that light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel is just, that end is just getting closer and closer as everything is opening back up. But again, I think that the one thing that's probably here to stay is a lot of things have changed. The here to stay one is working remote, and a lot of evolution into the way the workforce interacts and works with each other and with their own companies. Everyone has been impacted, and I think that there is this strong need of to persevere. We would love to hear a bit more about what does stoppable mean for you. What does that mean for organizations and their employees?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been absolutely torrid 24 months, hasn't it? And yeah, you're right. I think the world has absolutely changed. And I think when we consider the very concept of change, what changes sort of before 2020, what changes right now, watching organizations come to terms with what's happened has been astonishing, absolutely astonishing from an SDI perspective. So if you think about what that has meant really for having to manage and deal with change across business ecosystems, the impact of change on an organization's people, its information, technology, partners, suppliers, its processes, its practices. It's really been incredible to see how in many cases, it's brought the best out of the people who work in IT. And I think if you couple that with the level of change all of us have had to deal with as well in our everyday lives, it certainly think that change has become the 21st century's most ubiquitous challenge. I think the very nature of change has changed. We've witnessed more than ever the inevitability of change. And you could argue that the skills, I think right now, the skills that you need to deal with change are now more than ever the skills that you need for success. So I think that Be Unstoppable strapline is what many people, many organizations have been doing for the last couple of years. And I really like it. I like Be as a proposition. It's a challenge. So Be Unstoppable is a challenge. It incorporates change. It incorporates adaptability, resilience, creativity, innovation, problem solving, opportunity. And to me, it sort of means to be greater than the sum of your parts in an organization. It certainly means leadership. It means teamwork, collaboration. It means to belong. It means community. It means connection. It means responsibility, contribution, trust, achievement, recognition. It means for me that we're better together. So yeah, I like that. I like that Be Unstoppable strapline. It's really cool.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we all cope with change indeed, and sometimes it's tough, but I've seen that out of change sometimes comes the best. That's where the most innovation comes out, and this is what we've been seeing in the past months. So yeah, I think that that there's a lot of positive, as you were mentioning, indeed, David, around this change. So we worked together into putting up this 2022 trends and kind of looking into the different areas that come out as being the most important. I've been studying this. We are talking, and we've been talking about the great resignation that is happening, especially within the millennials, the young generations that need that human interaction. And partly due to the dynamics of the workforce, the changing role of office environments, the expectations of employees regarding their jobs, not only their jobs, but also the tools and technologies, how frustrating it is when you're working from home and your laptop is down or your key apps are down. It just gets so frustrating. You cannot go to the cafeteria and sip a coffee with a colleague as you would have done prior. So yeah, let's talk about that, David, and yeah, focusing on employee retention and why that is so important.
It wouldn't be possible without the people who take part in these research sort of things, you know. So again, I'd like to thank everybody, and probably some of our listeners there as well, for taking part in the survey, which is great. I think there's a number of factors to consider here. Okay, so the data shows there's been significant change, obviously, change in people's roles and responsibilities since March 2020, some significant stuff as well. And the main catalyst there in the data, people have attributed to that change to IT business strategy change or IT change, and COVID-19. So there's a clear link in the data between those two, obviously. The data also shows a large majority of respondents expect their roles to change again. So roles and responsibilities to change again in 2022 and beyond. So an awful lot of change to contend with. And it also means potentially career opportunities for people internally and externally as well. So we certainly expect to see recruitment becoming more competitive as organizations look to find the best candidates to backfill role changes. And we also expect to see employee retention, as you mentioned, become even more of a focus area as organizations look to ensure they don't lose employees to compete in organization. Now, there's also clear expectations in the data on salaries as a result of taking on new roles and responsibilities, as well as generally salary expectations and increases in 2022. So again, that could be another serious influencer on employee retention and attrition rates. We may see more people consider career opportunities outside their current organizations if the salary expectations are not realized. And I think it's also very clear from the data that people want to learn new skills. They want to develop, so much so that 93% of respondents said that they're willing to move on in an organization to learn new skills. Now, that could mean that people will also consider opportunities to develop outside their current organizations. So another key consideration when addressing any potential challenges related to staff retention in 2022. We also see as well key drivers in the data in relation to employee well-being. And we'll come on to that a little bit later, I think, but well-being and work-life balance, there's a very positive influence there seen in the ability to work from home and hybrid working, very positive. And conversely, excessive workloads, understaffed teams, and having to pick up additional role and responsibilities have had also a negative influence too. And I think it's really been interesting for me to see how the focus on the employee happiness has changed, or we've seen more of it over the last 12 months or so. There's an obvious connection there between working remotely from a home digital workplace experience and environment and ensuring people can carry out their responsibilities and are happy in that environment, and that the technology they use is working for them rather than against them as well. And that's both for the people who consume support services and the people who provide support services as well. So I think a really great sort of service desk experience is about the symmetry between the experience of the people who work on the service desk and support, and the experience of the people who the service desk supports. And that really, for me, works together. So I think if we consider the symmetry of experience, that sort of great resignation thing, based on our data, there are clear areas to focus on to make sure that symmetry is right, and it support the employee retention. And those things include things like continuing to let people work flexibly from home. So considerations there on supporting the digital workplace experience, on employee happiness, addressing certainly excessive workloads and understaffed teams as well. Considerations there on intelligent automation, on removing the need for manual intervention, repeatable low-value work, along with maximizing self-service as well. So shifting the right workloads into self-service and enabling the self-serving end user. And also, as we've mentioned, that salary thing as well, another key driver on really looking at salaries and trying to improve salaries. A difficult time to do that, but really that's a key area for all organizations. And I think alongside those, that's traditional thing. So organizations also need to ensure they've got things like people management and employee satisfaction practices in place, that they're working for the organization. So we could think about succession planning. We could think about recruitment strategies, onboarding, employee induction, training, skills development, talent management, reward and recognition, employee satisfaction programs. So all those things tested in place to support the volume of potential change that we could see. And let's not forget as well, we've also got the loss of tacit knowledge when people move internally and externally. So I think knowledge management, another key consideration there. So an awful lot to consider. It's a long answer to a very short question, I think, all related to that symmetry of experience and focusing on the employee happiness and the employee retention. It's an absolute must, I think, for 2022.
Totally. So yeah, indeed, so many things for companies and managers to consider. It's so tough to attract the right talent and keeping them, that talent, happy in today's changing world and well-being that we're going to be talking about. It is indeed tough, and it comes out to so many different items. One that you talked about, and I think it's key, and we've been looking into that a lot at Freshworks and how we developed our products, is user experience and collaboration, especially around service management. You were talking about that. With the diverse workforce, we've built in context-based collaboration to break those silos and provide people with the right information. And yeah, considering that employee experience, what strategies can businesses adopt?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that collaboration thing, and actually it's backed up by the research data. Yeah, I think it says, and if you look at the report, by far the technology that's had the biggest effect on improving how people work is the collaboration platform. Now, many people listening to that may say, well, that's pretty much obvious, and I think where we are right now, given the home working, hybrid working, it is pretty obvious. But although I think the collaboration platform has quickly become that sort of ubiquitous enterprise tool right now, not so long back, pre-COVID-19, the use of a collaboration platform for many may have been seen as a bit of a novelty. I worked from home for a while before COVID, and it was an essential tool for me, but many people would never use it. They still use a phone maybe. And I think, yeah, the take-up of an impact of the collaboration platforms and the continuing enhancement, you mentioned it, developments, integrations, bots, automation, I think that's without doubt a defining feature of the post-COVID-19 enterprise. And if you look at the data, 63% of all respondents said the collaboration platforms have improved their working life during that period. And when we looked at what organizations are planning for 2022, we considered both the technology and the service focus. And it's clear in there as well. The data shows that the top 3 focus areas in 2022 are improving the end user experience, digital transformation strategies, and enabling the self-sufficient end user. So there was almost 60% of respondents said that improving the end user experience is the main focus for 2022. And we've seen the rise in the focus of service experience as sort of a core component to support propositions over the last 5 or 6 years. So I think seeing that continued emphasis on improving the end user experience in this data, I think that's very positive to see, especially coupled with digital transformation strategies and what's clearly a theme throughout the whole of the data set, enabling the end user, enabling the self-sufficient end user. So yeah, really, really important stuff, that technology, definitely.
Totally. And at Freshworks, our DNA is really making our tools and their usage as easy as important in the upcoming years to come. Out of the survey and all of the analysis that we did around the trends, one thing that came out is what are the required skills? So what can the company do, but also what are the required skills for ensuring that we keep up to expectations. So empathy clearly comes out as one of those top ones, and it's so tough because how do you manage to bring empathetic leaders? It's so tough. How do organizations help build those skills into their existing workforce and into their IT agents?
Yeah. It's you know, it was really interesting to see the response to the questions on skills. So if you look at the data, over 80% of respondents said that they had to introduce new skills or upskill or reskill their service desk staff as a direct result of COVID-19. And almost half of those said that the skills that they introduce are human. So rather than technical or business skills, sort of soft human skills, so things like effective communication, teamwork, responsibility, people skills, leadership, adaptability, that was the focus of how people reskill during that period. And I think that says a lot about how organizations approach the move to working remotely and how organizations, people, teams, all sort of reorientated to the challenges of working remotely. I think it was really positive to see that data and that human skilling approach taken by so many of the respondent organizations. Really cool, actually. I think it was even more interesting to see how many respondents said that the impact of the last 18 months or so has changed what they think now that skills are needed in a service desk professional, what people need to possess in the near future. Again, over 80% of respondents said that they now think differently about the skills needed in the near future. And as you mentioned, absolutely, problem solving, analytical thinking, emotional intelligence, collaboration skills, these are seen as the key skills that people will need in the next 2 to 3 years. And I think part of that shift in thinking is the consideration that the way that we create support services is changing. There's been an awful lot of talk over the last few years about intelligent automation, about machine learning, AI, virtual agents, service orchestration, especially as a result of 2020, where subjects like things like, workload deflection, self-service, enterprise service management, shift left, sustainability of service, they all come under the microscope like never before. And I think that means a different way of thinking about delivering services. It means that value creation means more now. Optimization means more. Being holistic means more. So that less reliance on human intervention, more emphasis on the service experience and human-centered service. All those now sort of core to driving continual improvement, rather than what I think has quickly become a very old-fashioned approach of spending the majority of time in a reactive state, firefighting in an inflexible, top-down, siloed, SLA at all costs driven service. So I think organizations do need to consider sort of what that means for skills when you work more proactively and less reactively. So a big responsibility on organizational leadership to consider things like design thinking as a set of skills, and sort of creating empathetic, embodied, equity-driven people working with purpose and creativity and ethics. It's a big word, I think, in currently in the world, I think. And blending. So I think it's a blend of assessing the needs for those kinds of skills as services augment. I think it's about implementing lifelong training and learning and development strategies. It's practicing those new skills, as well as revising the way the organizations that we recruit as well, in order to incorporate these kinds of skill sets as you bring people into an organization, looking for the right caliber, the right type of person. I also think it's important to look outside traditional IT training routes as well. If you look at problem solving, analytical thinking, emotional intelligence, collaboration skills, these are organizational skills. They're not just IT skills. So I think it's important that organizations really think what this means and sort of change again to that kind of approach. A very important time for IT and all that stuff, I think, really important.
Yeah, I think it's indeed organizational. This is not just at an IT level. This skills apply to the full organization. So important, leading by example, because where do you find a course on being more empathetic? And I think that leading by example and bringing the right management is so important, especially again in these days working from home, which is kind of bridging to my next question that you already tackled earlier, David. How do you create well-being in this times where it's really important for people to have that work-life balance? And sometimes it's so tough because there's no boundaries anymore, and then you get frustrations, you get burnouts, and it's so important, and the empathetic leadership that's able to ensure that you are taking care of your people and making sure that well-being is not something that you're just saying, you're literally walking that talk. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because that was the key last trend, the importance of maintaining work-life balance in these times where probably working from home at least some days a week is here to stay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, there's some great data there. We touched upon a little bit earlier about the positive impact on the ability to work from home. It's really interesting to see how quickly organizations adapted to that. When we used to talk to service desks, there was always a reason why they couldn't work from home: data, connection, network, whatever, security, and that's changed. So if you look at the data, 44% of respondents said that their work-life balance was better in 2021 than it was in 2020. 44%. And the biggest factor in that increase was down to the ability to work from home, which is incredible. We also see as well that 43% of the respondents think that their work-life balance has positively contributed to their emotional well-being. So working from home has positively contributed to their emotional well-being. So I think that's really something that organizations need to consider as they move back to an office environment or plan how to return to work. We've certainly seen organizations look to maintain that flexibility, and organizations who have also gone back to an office environment. I think there's pros and cons to each of those, but it could also mean that some employees, after you've seen this data and what they feel about working from home, they may look to move to organizations who offer more flexible working terms right now, because they've experienced the positive nature and the positive effects of working from home. And I think it's also very interesting, again, to see salaries as a key contributor to work-life balance and emotional well-being. Really, it's very, very interesting to see them very high up in the data as well as staffing. We've mentioned that earlier, as well as workloads. So some clear drivers on what it is to improve employee happiness. And as you've already said, actually, I think the leading by example is important. So managers, senior leadership, working responsible hours, taking breaks, not emailing workers outside of office hours, or expecting workers to deliver work in unworkable timeframes. I really think it's time we fully embrace the fact that every employee is different. The flexibility, it's now a workplace currency. It's as simple as that. It is. And that sort of one size doesn't fit all. And I think the best way of understanding how to improve work-life balance is to ask your employees. It's as simple as that. So I'm hoping that we'll see some more of that empathetic sort of leadership, certainly as the demographic changes in organizations as well, and younger sort of C-level people coming with these sort of new ideas. I think it's way past this time that we need to look at that. I think the Industrial Revolution, the way that we used to manage things, that's gone, and I'm looking forward to that sort of fourth Industrial Revolution in the way that people value each other in business now.
Totally. I'm personally a huge fan of working from home, and also as a manager, the capacity to bring talent that is not necessarily sitting in the same city where your office is. I think that flexibility is so important. So thank you so much, David. I think it has been a great conversation. Hopefully our audience has enjoyed as much as I have. Great thoughts you bring, and just I think some closing thoughts for me. Mental health, emotional well-being plays a huge part in productivity. From personal experience, I can totally relate to that. Happiness, satisfaction, and having a good quality life. I think that at Freshworks we try to walk the talk and that end. And yeah, employee retention, collaboration, empathy, analytical thinking, problem solving skills, finally supporting anywhere operation mindsets are the new thing, and it's here to stay. And yeah, those are our 4 trends. Those are the trends that we have in the report that you can download and deep dive into a lot of this. There's a lot of data points that come to support these trends and what David has been talking about. So yeah, I think that with this, so we close today's session. And yeah, David, thank you again so much. And hopefully we'll be meeting soon and talk about 2023 trends 2024.
Indeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you. It's always great to take part in these events with Freshworks. So thank you for inviting us. And yeah, brilliant. Bring on 2023.
Bring it on. Thank you.